Do you want to know how SOTA makes us totally addicting drum and bass? Well, stick around to find out. Hello to all drum and bass fanatics, my name is 5X and welcome to How to DNB with Inverse Audio. In today's episode, we've got SOTA. We're going to be breaking down and covering his signature jump up sound. Now grab your headphones because we're going to take this to the next level. As always, smash the subscribe button, all support is massively appreciated. Can we please again hit 100 likes, leave a comment with what you want to see next on the channel, and without any further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. Right, let's kick things off with a heartbeat of any drum and bass track, the drums. SOTA's beats hit harder than a double espresso on a Monday morning. His intricate rhythms are like a roller coaster ride for your ears, keeping you interested from start to finish. He loves to use those crispy snares, punchy kicks, and breakneck hi-hats that define his signature style. Now, as always, I'll be breaking down each sound one by one and then playing them all together. So first off, we have a really punchy drum and bass kick that's in a regular drum and bass pattern. Next up, we've got two snares that I've layered. One of them is really wide, and the next one serves as the body. Those two layered together sound like. Next up, we've got the hi-hats. I've got a hi-hat playing every beat. I've got a ride playing every two beats. And then I have a top loop. I almost forgot about this open hat that I've layered with the snares. And those hi-hats together sound like. Then for some variation, I've added a tom right before this last snare here. It's syncopated, which gives it a nice bounce. On top of that, I've added another hi-hat. When you pair all those together, this is your result. Now here's where the magic really happens. We're talking about the bass lines that make your subwoofer shake like a bowl of jelly. SOTA's basses are as unique as your fingerprint, meaning his style is very hard to recreate. And a big part of that comes from his mastery of sound design. We'll dive into Serum, uncovering how he crafts those dirty, gritty, and downright delicious bass patches that have us hitting the replay button again and again. Now, starting off with any good drop, we've layered a nice, crunchy sub that just stays on the root note for the most part. This can be found in our Drum and Bass Sample Pack Volume 1. If you're looking for samples or if you're looking for one-to-one tuition, make sure you go head over to our website. Link in the description, you can find out more information there. We also have 2 free sample packs available. Next up, we have a one bass that I've introduced at the start of every phrase. Sounds like this. Essentially, it's 2 sine waves that are distorted with this LFO1 controlling the cutoff that's set to an 1/8 rate at trigger. Next, and probably the main bass line, is actually more of a lead, but I'll play it now so you can hear what it sounds like. Now let's break down how I made it. Essentially, it's a sawtooth patch with a unison set to 9, with LFO1 controlling the level at a 16th rate. It also has a filter on it with a bit of resonance. On top of that, I've automated LFO2 to the X position of LFO1. That's what makes this slide over time. I've set LFO2 to 2-bar triplet. So essentially what this is doing is as this plays on, it gets more and more delayed, which is giving it a skippy effect. I've also added in some noise, some distortion, set to rectify, and I've taken out the lows. I've also assigned macro 1 and 2 to the octave and to the rate of LFO1. We'll discuss what these do later. The next bass that I've added here is this laser bass. Now this one again is not too complicated. It's using a B-sod square wave that's pitched up 1 octave with a unison set to 11, and also has a sawtooth wave at -2 octaves with a notch filter. LFO1 is again controlling the sound, and we've set it to an 1/8 rate. On the effects, we've got hyper, got distortion, compressor, and some reverb. Next, moving on, we have a one bass. And for this sound, LFO1 is once again controlling the whole sound. We've got it set to trigger at 1/4 rate with this shape, which is then opening the filter, changing the wavetable position of oscillator B and the FM from B. Oscillator A is at -2 octaves and oscillator B is +7 semitones. On the effects, I've automated LFO1 to the mix of the hyper, to the drive of the distortion, and to the frequency of the EQ at the lower band, so it moves up as the sound plays. The second to last bass, we have this screech bass. Very nice jump up bass. Can't actually take credit for making this one. This one is a preset that I found on Splice, but it's essentially using LFO1 to control the level and it's got to control the level and the cutoff. We've also got a sub on here, and its oscillator's got sync on it, which is what makes it sound so high. On the effects, I'll just show them on the screen. Copy it if you want, but I'm not taking credit for this one. And last of all, we have the respace. For this one, we've got 2 sawtooth waves at -2 octaves. One of them is pitched up to 47 fine. Then we've got a notch filter, which is what gives it that hollow sound. On the effects, we've got a hyper, we've got a bit of distortion, and a multi-band compressor. On top of that, I've sent every single one of these basses into this bass bus, which then I send to the sidechain bus. The sub has also got its own bus, and the sub bus has been sent to the sidechain bus. I then put on a KHS gain, and I set it to the percentage mode. I then right-click and I automate this. Ultimately, which is what gives me my sidechain envelopes. I make these by hand manually just because I feel like it gives me a lot more control. I get a lot of questions from you guys asking about it. I will do a complete mixing tutorial that includes sidechain very soon. But once you have all of those drums and the bass, this is what your drop should sound like. But hold on, it's not all about the bass and sub. SOTA's attention to detail is what sets him apart. The ambience and effects he weaves into his tracks are like sonic spices, adding depth and dimension you can practically touch. We'll explore how he creates his ethereal atmospheres and mind-bending effects that can transport you to another dimension. First of all, before we get too much into the effects, I think it's important to set a solid foundation, and a good way of doing that is finding a good vocal and a good bass line. For the vocal, I found it from Splice. I'll play a quick snippet of it.
You're everywhere that I turn, feel like I'm losing it. It gets so hard to discern what's reeling in my head.
It's very nice, it's very clear, crisp. I've added some post-processing onto that, but like I said, I'm not going to get into that this video. But the main star of the show is this hook here.
You're haunting me, you're haunting me, you're haunting me, you're haunting me, you're haunting me.
And using this hook, I added in a simple respace. I'll quickly break down the patch for you now. It's the same one that I used in the last video in the intro. It's just a sawtooth wave, unison set to 16. Got the cutoff set to around 30 Hertz at MG low 24. And this EQ, which has just got this function on it, cuts out the really low end, the sub. And that's pretty much it. With those two, I managed to create this bass line, which really fits well with the vocal and therefore giving us a solid foundation to build some more effects off of.
You're haunting me, 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 you're haunting me.
Beautiful music to my ears. Now, next up, we've got effects, impacts. Got some rises, some short, and some long. Now, the key with these effects, you want to have these when you introduce a new sound or you drop sounds out. It gives them a nice transition and it doesn't make it feel like it's happening too suddenly. The next thing that I've added is an atmosphere, which I found in Pigments. Pretty self-explanatory. On top of that, I've added a ride splash. Just every beat as normal. I've added this intro lead, which serves as the main lead for the track later on. It's from another Pigments patch. Now this one is really cool because it has all these macro effects and I've automated it later on in the track. So it starts off as a siny sort of pluck, but later on it's a sawtooth lead type of sound. Yeah, very cool, but also very basic. So once you layer those few simple elements, you can end up with an intro like this.
You're everywhere that I turn, feel like I'm losing it. It gets so hard to discern what's reeling in my head. I should be more concerned, but I don't think there's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. Ooh, I feel you close, you're haunting me. Ooh, I think you know what you do to me. Ooh, I feel you most when I try to see you in my dreams.
Then moving on, what I've realised with SOTA's tracks is he likes to do his build up into 2 sections. You've got the section where the vocal plays and you've got the section where the lead plays. The lead typically comes right before the drop. In terms of his drops, he sometimes has a little 4x4 fake out drop. That's the first 8 bars of the drop. Now, in this case, I just wasn't able to do it with this song. I tried to do it. I didn't feel like it fit. His style, like I said previously, is very difficult to recreate. So I tried doing the best job that I can. But one thing I noticed he likes to do is switch up his respace into a stabby, every stabby 8th note bass, like I've done here. It's just the same patch. But what I've done different with this one is I've mapped the velocity to the cutoff and to the level and the distortion. And I've altered the velocity like so it gives us more of a bounce. Just so not every note is the same. On top of that, I've layered a clap every beat, which I love doing every song apparently. And yeah, I'll play this section now. Alright people, it's time to crank up the anticipation. SOTA's build-up game is second to none, and we're about to find out why. We'll break down the elements that make his drop so darn effective, from tension building rises to strategically placed vocal to get us all hyped up before the drop. So like I said previously, I tried to do SOTA's build-ups justice, but it's very difficult to recreate. So what I've gone for here is I've gone for a classic kick that fades out with, so what I've done here is I've started off with a kick that EQs out the more it plays. Very standard stuff. If you watch the channel, you know this is standard procedure. The reason why we do this is because when you have the kick playing normally, when it re-triggers like this, there's an awful lot of zero crossing that's happening, and it's just way too muffled. You will not be able to hear anything else but this kick. It's not very pleasant, but this, on the other hand, a lot more manageable. Next, we've repeated the vocal a few times. You want to find that one phrase that's going to stick throughout your whole song, and everyone will recognize, and it'll probably be the name of your song anyway. In between the gaps where you're not being haunted by the vocal, we've got the lead. Now I've layered this, so it's the same pluck as I said before, and it's a cashmere saw. On top of that, I've added the usual, as I said before, sweeps, ups, and rises. Very dramatic, very cool. We love that. I've added a build-up here. And I've layered the ride from before as well. And now let's play the build-up in full. Another thing I forgot to mention is I've introduced an automation on the macro one of these build-up stabs. Macro one is controlling the frequency on this EQ, so it lowers out as time passes, and essentially what that does is it just drops the bass back in right before the drop. Awesome stuff. But yeah, that is essentially how you drum and bass like SOTA. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. It's really been difficult to try and recreate his style, but I hope I've done it justice for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Join our Discord. I'm always keen to give you guys feedback. If you're interested in one-to-one tutoring, make sure you go on the website. If you're interested in sample packs, free or paid, go check out our website as well. Honestly, so much for the support recently. You guys have been killing it and making me want to make more and more videos. Don't worry, I've got them coming. Leave a comment on what style you want to see next. And without any further ado, I'm going to play the track. Peace.
You're everywhere that I turn, feel like I'm losing it. It gets so hard to discern what's reeling in my head. I should be more concerned, but I don't think there's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. Ooh, ooh,